Okay, so for the last module of the course, we're going to look at planetary geology. And so we have other planets in our solar system that are similar in that they're rocky like the Earth, so we can use some of the information and knowledge that we have about Earth to try to understand the environments and the history of those planets. And in particular, we've been looking at Mars lately, trying to figure out, was there water, was there life, how did that evolve over time, why is it different from the Earth now? I think it used to have some type of plate tectonics, maybe some water. And so we want to investigate these other things. And of course, if you're going to be a geologist, certainly a planetary geologist is a field that people go into. Work for NASA, ASU has a big planetary geology program. So basically what I'm going to have you do for the lecture here is I'm going to have you visit these links here on the NASA site that just basically talks about the objects in our solar system. And so how it's going to work for the lecture quiz is there's no timed quiz like you've typically experienced throughout the course because there's a lot of data here. What I really just want you to do is kind of, read a little bit about each of the planets and the sun, get a little information. And so you can just visit each of these links, click it, go there, read a little bit about the planet, and then answer some questions in the lecture quiz here. So this is just an overview of the solar system. If you're unaware of what our solar system looks like, it's kind of a nice graphical representation. And then you can, like I said, visit each of these links. It'll take you to a NASA page that has some information about what these planets have for us. This last little thing is just a quick little video that's illustrating the objects that are not planets, that are leftover material from the formation of our solar system, and that potentially cause some trouble for us when they get close to the Earth, and they may impact us. And of course, we could always talk about 65 million years ago when there's a large object that struck the Earth that led to the demise of the dinosaurs. We know there's been objects that have impacted the Earth in the past. So we try to keep track of those. And that's what this short little video is kind of illustrating there. So that's what you're going to do for the lecture. For the article, we want to look at some volcanoes that are in our solar system. So the Earth's not the only place that we see volcanism. And so we want to look at some other planets that exhibit some of these similar features. And this is this idea of, if you're going to be a planetary geologist, you have to know Earth geology so that we can apply some of the things we see here on other planets. So you can just kind of read through that article and then answer the questions as usual. And then finally, I'm going to have you play around with this little program that allows you to choose some characteristics of an object that may impact the Earth. And so let's see, did I make it here? So here it is here. And so in the questions for the homework, it'll ask you to input some information here. And so, how far away are you from the impact site, and then the size and velocity and angle, kind of where it's hitting. And then you'll hit calculate the effects. And then that will give you some information about crater size, about whether a tsunami was generated, what was the magnitude earthquake, and then typically something about whether you would survive that. If you were, 100 kilometers away from a very large object, you probably wouldn't survive. But if you were, 3,000 kilometers away, maybe you could survive. So you want to kind of play around with this, and then in the homework, it's just going to have you answer some questions about what were the results. And in the end, it'll allow you to kind of play with your own kind of information and see what, you kind of came up with by inputting your own information into that little program. So it's just a little, fun, maybe fun. I don't know, impacting the Earth with large objects might not be considered fun, but it's interesting to see the effects that it could have depending on some of these parameters that you would input. So that's what you're going to do for the main lecture. And then for the final lab, there's actually a kind of summary lab called a look back lab. And it's just going to basically summarize a lot of the stuff that we looked at in the labs throughout the course. So, some rock stuff, some plate tectonic stuff, some earthquake stuff, that kind of thing. So it'll be basically a review that you can go through and answer the questions and submit that as usual. And so that's what we're going to do for this module. So once you've completed these last two modules, then you are done for the course, and you can, if you need to, email me or ask me about your grade. If you need to, the grade should just be, you should be able to see those in your grade book, and the typical 90, 80, 70, 60 kind of breaks for ABCDs and all that kind of stuff will apply. But if you have questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I can help you out.